Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. A high-level delegation from Pakistan led by Defense Minister Khaja Asif met with some top officials of the interim Afghan government in Kabul, including the Deputy Prime Minister Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar. According to Pakistan's Foreign Office, this particular meeting had the discussions regarding the growing threat of terrorism, especially by the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan as well as ISKP. The statement by the Foreign Office of Pakistan says the both sides have agreed to collaborate to address this threat of terrorism. Now, this particular visit and the meeting comes against the backdrop of a recent surge in terrorism in Pakistan. Pakistani authorities have repeatedly been urging the Afghan authorities to fulfill their commitment they made to the international community that the Afghan soil won't be allowed to be used against any other country for terrorism. But we had seen that there had been denials by the Afghan authorities regarding the presence of banned Tehrik-e-Taliban militants on the Afghan soil. At the same time, which was categorically said by Pakistani authorities that TTP remains to be an absolute red line, and there was a change of policy from that of the previous government's policy that the current government is not going to appease the terrorists, and the Afghan government needs to do the concrete action regarding the safe havens of the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan in Afghanistan. At the same time, Pakistani authorities had been advocating the case of the people of Afghanistan who are faced with a dire humanitarian crisis. A new crisis group report in that regard says the donors are turning away from Afghanistan due to Taliban's restrictions on women's rights and freedoms. At the same time, we have seen a district court judge has said that the family members of the 9/11 victims are not entitled to the funds from Afghanistan's central bank. After the Kabul takeover by the Taliban, we saw President Joe Biden froze those assets, and they happen to be of $7 billion. And in February, he set $3.5 billion for the victims' families of 9/11. And regarding that, this particular judgment has come. I will talk about all these aspects, and we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Ms. Shazia Anwer Cheema, expert international relations. Ms. Shazia, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. So let's begin with this particular visit by Defense Minister. The delegation from Pakistan also included DGISI. Also, how badly it was required at this point in time?
For that, we have to do just a simple math. A simple calculation can justify that how badly it was required. Since 15th August 2021 till 15th August 2022, there was increase of 53% rise in the terrorist attack. And at the end of the 2022, there was additional rise in the terrorist attack, 23%. So that accumulate 83% rise since 2017, and it's the highest terrorist attacks in the Taliban regime, during the Taliban regime. So it's like just now it's February, and this month, this year, we have seen 130 killings. Like it's just 2 months for this year, 2023. So it was badly needed. It was the right time to go there and to demand that we need your cooperation, as we have been cooperative with you all along. Pakistan has always been proactive. Pakistan has always been on all the fronts, on all diplomatic forums, advocating for the Afghanis, fighting for Afghanis, asking the help, humanitarian aid, as you have already mentioned. So it was the right time to demand that cooperation from Afghanistan, to ask for the help, like do not let your soil, do not let your land to be a sanctuary for the terrorist. So there is no blame game. Nobody is blaming you to, for that. The terrorist attacks in Pakistan. We are not playing. Pakistan is not not in habit of playing that blame game. But our issue was like we need cooperation. We need your cooperation, and luckily, it has been ensured, and let's see how the things will unfold in the future.
When we specifically look at the Pakistan's delegation, of course, the Defense Minister Khaja Mohammad Asif was leading this particular delegation, and also DJ ISI, and then we saw that a Pakistan special envoy in Afghanistan, Mohammad Sadiq, was also part of it. So a loud and a clear message delivered to the Afghan authorities. What do you think?
I think it's loud enough. I think they must have registered it, that we are not sitting idle, and we are registering it. We are recognizing it, and it has been pretty definite that the terrorists are using Afghan soil. So there is no debate in that. There is no argument about that. So who is providing them that safe haven? So the message was loud and clear, and message was with the proofs, and message was with the evidence. Message was with all the, it has all the force which was required to pursue, to push them.
So do you think it would have been well received on the Afghan authorities' part?
So far, my perception is concerned, I don't think, I'm not seeing that. It has been perceived like positively. Yes, there is a communique, like they have agreed on cooperation, but so far history is concerned, we have to fight hard to earn that. I mean, I'm not that hopeful. That's my personal opinion.
But they have agreed, and they have shown their willingness that they would cooperate and collaborate with Pakistan in order to address and deal with this particular threat.
You are right. In a way, you are right. But the problem is that we actually, the problem started when we decided, Pakistan somehow decided to have negotiation with TTP under the supervision of PTI. So the problem started from there, and that somehow legitimized them. That somehow have give them the idea that they are still relevant. That give them this clue of being in the power again. So that was a bad move. That was a bad strategic move.
A similar sort of an observation has already been made by NACTO also. I mean, before the Senate Standing Committee regarding security, that those negotiations actually emboldened the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban in Pakistan. Now, we all know that has backfired, that policy has backfired, and Foreign Minister Bilal Bhutto Zardari in his recent review also has said that it has actually blown right over our faces. What now? When we know that TTP is launching the attacks using the Afghan soil, okay, Pakistani authorities continuously asking the Afghan authorities to fulfill their commitment. Now, after this particular meeting, an assurance has been given by them. So there must be a hope that they would take some sort of concrete action against the banned TTP militants over there.
The only hope is that sanity prevails in Taliban and in Afghan government, current Afghan government. That's the only hope.
So what do you think? What keeps them from taking that concrete action against the TTP? Because of this TTP's allegiance to them, or ideological convergence they have towards the TTA in Afghanistan?
They have this religious allegiance. They have their ties as well, and the other core problem is that Taliban's for some time they have started thinking that they can they can survive on their own. If I'm not saying too much, like Pakistan is always there. Pakistan was always there to support Afghanistan, and Afghanistan should not forget that they cannot survive without Pakistan. Not in the term of like in the way of like if I'm sounding like I'm my tone is bullying or something, but the thing is that their trade route, they require us for that trade. They require us for that advocacy. They require us for the diplomacy, and that's the things they do not want to accept, and they are publicly denying it. They have every right to do that. They have every right to do that. Like they are saying that we have earned our victory without any help. Let's
okay,
buy that.
Please hold your thought over. If they have had that victory without anybody's help, so what keeps them from taking that concrete action against the TTP, if they could have a victory against the international coalition forces who were laced with the modern technology and the equipment. So what keeps them taking that concrete sort of earn that sort of a concrete victory against the banned TTP on the Afghan soil?
Now you are coming back to, that's the same point. That the facade they are creating, the idea they are cultivating that we can survive all alone. They have to realize that yes, they can survive alone, but they need Pakistan.
No, can they survive alone? I mean, in the Committee of Nations,
I
they
don't want
look
to
forward to that very international recognition also, no? So
you are right, but we have to be in a way. I want to be diplomatic. I do not want to take the right of anybody to survive individually. I mean, if they fancy that, let them do that. So my stance is, if you think you can survive alone, try that.
But they had made international commitments. They had made commitments to the international community on one side, yet they want to live in isolation or individually.
They are isolated. If they continue with the stance that they can survive alone, they are isolated. They only have Pakistan for the advocacy, for the international forums. They only have Pakistan for them to talk. Nobody wants to talk to them. Nobody wants to negotiate with them. That Doha talk was just possible because of Pakistan.
Facilitation in the Afghan peace and reconciliation
that
process.
Moscow talk, that was just done with the help of Pakistan. So now Pakistan is, we are also human beings in Pakistan.
So that clearly shows that Afghan Taliban seriously owe to Pakistani authorities and its people.
I think that's my personal opinion. Yes. With every right, I mean, to disagree with that, that's my personal opinion.
So why there had been denials from their leaders regarding the presence of TTP on their on the Afghan soil? What do you think the motive could be behind that?
Like denying the TTP
TTP
or ties with the TTP? No, they are not.
Presence of TTP militants
no, they are not denying it as such. They are actually giving this idea that TTP is as difficult to handle for you as for us. So let's do it together. Right now, they are playing that thing. Like they are difficult to handle.
I mean, they gave a couple of leaders from TTA gave those statements that TTP is not present on the Afghan soil. It is operating from within Pakistan. So that was an utter denial by the TTA leadership.
No, but the facts are otherwise. It doesn't matter if they deny it or not. TTP has ties with Afghan soil. TTP has sanctuaries in Afghanistan, and their denial cannot rectify it. So we have, here catastrophes. We have 533 people have been died in 2022. So they are the Taliban which we think that we will go along. We have problems with Ashraf Ghani. That government had tied with India. So we were hopeful with that. Our only hope was that at least we will be in peace. So, and we need peace. That's what we want. That's what we are looking for, that we need peace here and stability here.
Do you think there's a lack of an understanding and realization among the Afghan Taliban ranks that peace and stability has got the dividends? It's ultimately going to be beneficial in the larger interest of Afghanistan itself.
That's the only and the clear scenario, that they have the sheer deniability about the fact, like this government, which has not been recognized by any other member countries of the world, and they think that they can survive. They think that they can make it legit. They cannot. They cannot. And with this perspective, they will make the situation even worse. We need peace and stability in the region. We need this is the time we need that thing in our region. We cannot afford these terrorist attacks, and they are costing us, and they will affect Afghan Talibans even more.
Right. Your point is well taken. Let me proceed with the discussion. We are honored to have been joined in the studio by Mr. Yasir Janjua, Senior Analyst. Mr. Janjua, thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Now, this visit by a high-level delegation led by the Defense Minister Khaja Asif to Afghanistan had meeting with some of the top officials of the interim Afghan government. The significance of it, how badly it was required at this point.
Well, we've been saying all along, successive Pakistani governments have been saying all along that the Afghan soil is being used for terrorism against Pakistan. The banned outfit Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan has been operating from there. And Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, although the interim Afghan government has been saying that they will not let Afghan soil to be used for terrorist activities in Afghanistan or outside Afghanistan in neighboring countries. However, we also know, unfortunately, that they don't have full control of the country. In a way, the country is being run by warlords who have pockets of their own where they have control. So in their own areas of control, if there is a terrorist element from Pakistan who is in hiding and they're providing them shelter, so the interim Afghan government does not have that full autonomy or the control over the situation. However, who should we go to? We have to go to the Afghan government. And we all know that those elements inside Afghanistan are either being hosted, of course they're being hosted by some Afghan factions who are sympathetic to Indians also. I have no qualms in saying that the Indians are, or the foreign hand in financing those terrorists, and then local operatives who are providing them shelter, and they are operating. Now, what you're saying is that defense minister going there and asking them, quite honestly, I do not see a lot of movement, a lot of, because this is not the first time we have raised this issue with the interim Afghan government. Few months ago, there was an attack on a mosque in Peshawar itself. That was considered to be, after a long time, the first major event in the settled areas of Pakistan. We then also made a point to register our protest, but we didn't see things happening. However, having said that, I have to unfortunately say this. When we are talking about, oh, there is terrorism being supported or being promoted from across the border, we have to look inwards as well. We can't just expect outsiders to do whatever we are supposed to do, or we have to do, or we have been doing very effectively, despite the fact that there were casualties and there were sacrifices, but we were doing it well. So we have to look inwards. Also, there is something wrong on our side, that all of a sudden, why is this pronounced again? So that is, soul searching has to be done inwards as well. Because I don't see a lot of, to be honest, I'm not very optimistic from yeah, this is a diplomatic initiative. We have gone there, we've told them. But I don't see.
It was quite a high-powered delegation led by Defense Minister
I know there was a DGISI was with him.
Present, and the Pakistan's
so I'm sure they
special
must have
envoy to
given them
Afghanistan.
evidence as well.
So
the DGISI going there means he would have taken the tangible evidence.
There's been
also.
assurance by the Afghan Taliban also. They want to collaborate and cooperate with Pakistan regarding addressing the threat of terrorism. So do you think we shouldn't have hopes?
I mean, if you ask me, I have to remain optimistic that there should something happen, but seeing their past record and their capacity, the issues of capacity, issues not of their desire or their will to cooperate with Pakistan. As I said in the beginning, opening remark, it's about their capacity. Do they have the capacity? You remember last year, there were incidents where people on the other side of the border actually dismantled the fence. They're Afghans. They dismantled the fence, where we have spent billions in erecting that fence, and they took away the fence. So you know, and I know it, that did not happen with the permission of the central government in Kabul. So the Kabul government was not complicit. However, that did happen.
So when you talk about the lack of capacity on the part of the interim Afghan government, is it only in terms of controlling the territories or just certain pockets, or not the entire swathe of Afghanistan's territory, or does it have to do with anything else?
I think it's not about territories or pockets. They have control in, for example, bigger cities like Kabul, Jalalabad, Kandahar. They'll probably be, because they're easy to be controlled. They have police forces, their armed forces. But in the in the in the hilly and mountainous areas of Afghanistan, even the Russians and Americans failed. With all their might and with all their intelligence capability, they even couldn't do something what we think the
Perhaps
Afghan
they were the
interim
foreigners.
government.
Perhaps they were the foreigners and they didn't know exactly about the terrain and the difficulties associated with that. But these people are from there.
Right.
So when we talk
So
about the
this is what I'm saying. When there is a warlord or there is a local tribe that still may be affiliated with the Afghan Taliban, however, the tribal head might think I'm the boss myself in my own domain, and I take decisions. And as you know, the culture is their culture says somebody is a guest, we treat them, we host them. So if that is happening, and that's what you are seeing. But
So
again,
would
I'm
you-
saying.
We'll be talking about the capacity in terms of their training, having a standing army, and this particular point was raised by Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari during his address at the Munich Security Conference. We'll be resuming the discussion from this particular capacity of the Afghan Taliban, but right after a short break. For that, stay tuned.
Success is a story of transformation in Sindh, where a community-driven approach organized women in community institutions of CO, VO, and LSO under social mobilization, educated and trained them through adult literacy and numeracy skills and technical and vocational skills, funded them with community investment fund and income-generating grants to start their own work, provided means to improve community physical infrastructure for a more conducive environment to work and live in, and ensured a healthier lifestyle for all by embracing micro-health insurance. The result was ownership of a united front in eradicating poverty by putting learnings into actions and creating income opportunities that resulted in a better livelihood by women who are now empowered for life.
Hello and welcome back to Views on News. We're discussing the very important meeting between the high-powered delegation from Pakistan led by Defense Minister with top officials of the interim government in Afghanistan. We are joined in the studio by Ms. Shazia Anwer Cheema and Mr. Yasir Janjua. On Skype, we are on to have been joined now by Mr. Irfan Ghauri. He's a senior journalist. Mr. Ghauri, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. How do you see the significance of this particular meeting? Do you think that very message, that very concern of the Pakistani authorities regarding the growing threat of terrorism to the TTA, the interim government over there, has been delivered loud and clear?
Thank you, Jawad sir. Thank you for inviting me. Uh, I think when we see the pattern has been that during the last 2 months or so, there have been more than 100 attacks, smaller and bigger, and then we have lost so many lives, like in Peshawar and many other cities. So this was very important that at the highest level, and this was, I think, the defense minister and DGISI, and then our special representative on Afghanistan, they all went, and they have conveyed our reservations. But the thing is that how do the Afghans? One is I was listening to my panelist here, co-panelists, that one is, of course, the the capacity, and the other is, I think, the will as well. We have to understand and review that that Afghan Taliban is not just one faction. there are multiple factions. Like we know that Haqqani, faction, they would be quite supportive of us, and they had been playing role where to stop attacks inside Pakistan. But when it comes to different other factions, there have been some ideological issues as well, including the Taliban current Amir. I mean, uh, he considers that Pakistani system, the system of governance in Pakistan, is un-Islamic, and ideologically, they and TTP have been quite close. And then when it comes to taking action, we have been asking them to take action, but these are the same Taliban, same people who had been supporting the Taliban in Afghanistan. So the distinction that we made, that the Taliban that were in Afghanistan, TTA is different than TTP. Now we have to be very clear that uh, this distinction that we have been making, we have been it was our miscalculation or whatever. We have to, of course, this message that has been conveyed, we have to see how it how the actions are taken. But I think I'm not very optimistic about the outcome of but that the Taliban, they would, because they also have the issue that the hardcore ones, if Taliban take action against them, they can join those Daesh and even more extremist groups that are even against the Taliban as well. That can become, and in the recent attacks, those some outsiders and the ones that were collaborators, they were the Afghans. I mean, other than the Pakistanis. So that means the factions from the Afghan Taliban, they also joined TTP, which is very, I think, serious thing.
So Mr. Ghauri, as you said that you don't happen to be that much optimistic regarding the outcomes of this particular meeting. So if you don't differentiate between the banned TTP and the TTA, so what options do you think the Pakistani authorities would have in future in order to deal with TTA?
Sir, one thing we have to understand, that we cannot have two policies. When we say that in our country we support democracy, then in Afghanistan as well, we cannot support a group, one group or one. There should be. That was the initially, before the Taliban took over. The initial effort was that there should be, a system where everybody could be included. Right now, Taliban have come to power with force, and it is very difficult, to make them understand, unless
But
they adopt.
Mr.
They
Ghauri,
are
I
they
seek your
are
pardon for
accepting.
the interjection, but Pakistan hasn't recognized that one single group as the legitimate government over there in Afghanistan. So what makes you say that Pakistan supports one single
That's
group over there?
No, but this is, official policy aside, but that's a fact that these Taliban, they had been, um, there had been, it is not that at the official level, at certain level, there had been support, and when the Taliban came to power, there was so jubilation in Pakistan, and we know that in our social media, and even from our, some of our officials, um, in then government, they also, they were. So the thing is that if we we want peace in Afghanistan, we have to review that the system over there, it should be the one which is acceptable to the international community and us as well, and then to the Afghan people as well. When we support democracy here, we have to see, the process over whichever the government, the Karzai was, and um, the Ghani government. They had, at least they had, whatever the elections, they had come through elections. Now the Taliban, who have come through sword, through gun, they dictate their terms, and this is what they have been doing.
Right, Mr. Ghauri, your point is well taken. I guess, Ms. Shazia, you have something to add to this. What's your take?
Yeah, I particularly don't agree with the idea that we support one fraction of the Taliban and we are not supporting the other fraction of Taliban. We have made mistakes, and we admit those mistakes, you know.
Madam, I didn't say, I'm sorry, to interrupt you, I didn't say that we are
Please go
supporting
ahead.
one
Mr.
faction.
Ghauri,
I'm saying
please
Taliban
go
as
ahead,
a
complete
whole.
your thought.
Just because, I mean,
Please go ahead.
maybe I'm not mistaken. I'm not saying we are supporting one thing. Yes. So the thing is that we shouldn't be, I mean, we have to make it clear that, I mean, of course, this is a transition, and the government over there, it's a transition government, but we have to convince the Afghans that at least whatever the governance system that should come, it should be acceptable to our neighbors. It should be acceptable to, us and international community as a whole.
Right, Ms. Shazia.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing we actually perceive right now. We are not supporting any group. We may have made mistakes, and we especially in PTI government, and I'm saying it with full responsibility. We may have done mistakes which reactive this Taliban thing in Pakistan, this terrorist attacks in Pakistan. But the point is not like who is supporting whom. The idea is, if we have this argument right here, right now, that Taliban government has capacity issues, so isn't it Taliban government itself marginalizing its legitimacy? That's what the entire world is saying, that you are not capable, you are incapacitated, you are just a fraction of Afghan population. So make a coalition government, and we are not, and we will never ever legitimize you, we will never recognize you. So if Taliban are saying that we cannot stop TTP or TTA, if we do not have capacity for doing that, so doesn't that mean that you are saying by yourself that we are not capable of governing a country? You are running a country. Practically you are running a country, and that cannot be an excuse. If you are not capable, then hand it over to someone who is capable to do that. So why should we suffer for that? If you are not capable, at one point we are advocating for you, for the humanitarian aid for the Afghan people. Pakistan can never leave the Afghan individuals, because we understand that Afghan common people and these fractions and these bands are two separate things. So those human beings, we will never ever isolate them, we will never leave them. So we support for you, we ask for your help, like the help for you, and you are incapacitated to stop terrorism in Pakistan, which we have given you the proofs. So that should not be for.
Mr. Janjua, so what makes the Afghan Taliban cling on to power and to govern the country by themselves when they don't have that inclusion of all the spectrums of the Afghan population, plus they can't control that very threat of terrorism, the promise of which they made to the international community?
See, you have to read or visualize the demography of Afghanistan. There are various ethnicities, the Tajiks and all sorts of other Pathans, Persians, Daris. The question is, Taliban will never have the support from all the factions. They will never have them. Now, and this is the reality, the Taliban that we now know of governing Afghanistan, they're predominantly Pashtun, which are from the belt which is adjoining Pakistan. And they are trying to exert their pressure over, or the influence over areas which are not Pashtun areas. The Northern Alliance areas, for example, they are not Pashtun areas. Now what they have done is, they've basically taken over control of the areas, key cities like Kabul. The problem is, now when the international community says we will not recognize you, the problem is they are the ones to blame. They left it high and dry. They just left in the middle of the night without any structure. And basically, there was no agreement. There was no handover takeover. They left, and the Afghans just came, Taliban just came over and took over the country. So what do you expect from a group which is so disjointed?
That's true.
So you can't expect anything from them as structured as their Afghan army, which was supposedly being trained by so many countries, including our adversaries. that literally surrendered in a matter of days. So how do you build up an army which is going to do some things like this? Do they have a police force which can do these things? No, they are not. However, having said that, I think part of the problem is the international community. When you don't engage somebody, you don't engage and you don't have a dialogue with somebody, what do you expect from them? You can't convince them to do anything as per your aspirations. So you have to bring them into the fold to make them compliant to certain international norms. And that's what is lacking. So I feel the international community, but what has international community got to lose? The sufferers are the Pakistanis, because we are the next door neighbors. If anything happens in Pakistan because of Afghanistan, do Americans care? No, they don't. Are the British affected? No, they are not. Indians? No. It's the Pakistanis who are affected. So probably the incapacity of Taliban is not something for them to worry about. However, it is because of their halfway through they left it, because they couldn't afford any more.
That exacerbated the situation.
It has.
So but there has been a recent expression of unconditional support by the US in particular for Pakistan in dealing with the threat of TTP and terrorism.
Well, I doubt very much what they are saying. The unconditional support. Pakistan and US relations have been taking a nosedive, especially after the incident last year. We were not at well, they have said this is a diplomatic statement. There's unconditional support. What unconditional support are we talking about? And I'm coming back again. We are expecting a little too much from the Afghan Taliban. They will not be able to achieve what we want them to achieve.
So what option? Please go ahead.
We put our house in order.
Ms. Shazia.
We put more stringent controls whereby Taliban cannot come inside and operate.
Right.
If we expect them to do something for us, no. Or unless we go and bomb their areas where we know there they are, then we should have the courage and will to do that.
Mr. Janjua, I'll come to this point. What options remain to be the hands of Pakistani authorities in when the international community doesn't care, as you just mentioned, and the TTA doesn't have that much capacity to deal with all those threats. Ms. Shazia, your take. You wanted to add
totally
something
agree
to
with
it.
Mr. Janjua on the point, like there has to be a coalition government. There has to be a multiple representation in Afghanistan. And I want to divert your attention to an incident like Pakistan has missed a chance. Pakistan has decided not to go into Moscow last week to discuss the Afghanistan issue. I don't know what could be the reasons, but that could have been a very suitable platform to discuss all these issues which we are discussing right now. And that could have been conclusive somehow in a way that America is tried and tested, and we have tested it, again and again and again. So let's try and test someone else. So that could have been a very good opportunity for Pakistan if Pakistan would have decided to go to Moscow to discuss on that forum the Afghanistan issues, because these issues have been discussed there. They were
So
all
what
there.
I understand is the role of regional countries increases
Exactly.
manifold.
China was
when
there,
it's-
Russia was there, Tajikistan was there. So there was.
So if I'm
I
allowed to
don't
say,
have the
your
exact-
answer is in your question. Pakistan didn't go to Moscow because, I have to say this, unfortunately, Americans.
Right.
We think we're going towards Moscow, we are going to annoy the Americans. This could be one reason.
Right. Mr. Ghauri, your take regarding this. What happened to be the options at the hands of Pakistani authorities? As Mr. Janjua says, that international community doesn't care how Pakistan is affected because of this terrorism, and all the things have to be done by Pakistan itself. So what options do you think are there at the hands of Pakistani authorities?
Sir, as Mr. Janjua was mentioning, the thing is that, yes, we have to put our own house in order first. Sometimes we are, talking to the Taliban, or we have a policy that we had been pursuing in the past, and we have seen it so many times. The people who have been released, Muslim Khan, and then the guy who had been their spokesperson, I'm just missing his name. where are they? I mean,
Zulme Khalilzad.
they have been released from here. So we have one policy.
Zulmi
Sorry?
Khalilzad was part of the problem.
Anyhow, so the thing is that, and then whenever some such a unfortunate incident which is of larger scale that happens, we come up with those discussions and all that, but we don't have follow up. Like, there are, of course, there have always been collaborators here as well. Earlier, we had been, blaming that there are the hostile elements within Afghanistan, and there were hostile countries in our neighbors that have been.
Right, Mr. Irfan Ghauri joining us on the phone line, senior journalist. Thank you very much for your time, for being with us on Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. Mr. Janjua, when we talk about if the international community, especially the major Western powers who were involved in this 2 decades of campaign in Afghanistan, now, if they don't realize that what difficulties Pakistan is facing currently, and although they express this support, in that scenario, what happens to be the responsibility of the regional countries, the major powers over here, including China, Russia, and Iran? How can the regional countries can collaborate? Because Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has said that it won't take any more time for terrorism to go beyond Pakistan if there doesn't happen to be a better coordination.
I don't know if my solution is acceptable to the foreign minister or the government of Pakistan or the regional countries, but I think the first thing to do for the regional countries, if they want peace in their backyards, they better start recognizing the Afghan government. At least there'll be a start from somewhere, and then we can include them. So the Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians, Pakistanis. When there'll be 4, 5, 6 countries, and 2, 3, or 2 of them at least are major world powers, they are permanent members of the Security Council with the veto powers. So if the 2 of them start thinking of recognizing, then there'll be other countries also will join, which will join the bandwagon. There is no shortcut to recognizing the Afghan government. Okay, it may not be it may not be the democratically elected government, as Shazia was saying. Burma does not have elected government; it has military junta. There are so many, even in a country like let's not take the names. So there are many other examples where there are no military democratic governments. However, they're still on the international community. They attend the forums. You keep them aloof, and then you're not going to get anything from them. So China, Russia, Iran, they can have discussions in Moscow, but if they still discuss in Moscow and the Afghans, no, they're not even recognizing us, and they're expecting us to comply with the international community's demands. How are the Afghans going to do it?
So, but there are going to be certain preset conditions from regional countries as well. The international
they should put the conditions to Afghans,
by these countries
but
is
in
not
return
to be
they
given
should
to
give
them
them
just
something
like,
also.
Yeah.
In return, they should give something to Afghans as well.
So what should that be? Controlling, having that control to address the threat of terrorism. That is basically the spillover effect.
For any country in Afghanistan shoes, the first and foremost thing would be aid, development, and blah, blah, blah. So I think those are the starters. And that's where Afghanistan is actually struggling. However, I still want to come back and say, we shouldn't wait for the Afghans to fix our problems. The terrorism is happening inside Pakistan. And we've effectively curbed this in the last 20 years with Zarbiyas, whatever we have done. We have done these things. We can do it again. Why is this happening is because of the political uncertainty in Pakistan. Our law enforcement agencies are predominantly occupied in doing things that they shouldn't be doing. They should be focusing on themselves. Unfortunately, I am a security and risk management practitioner. I don't want to call myself an expert. Unfortunately, in Karachi and in Peshawar, they entered the premises of police. Can you blame somebody else for that? You want to blame Afghanistan for that, or A, B, or C for that? Somebody had to put their house in order.
Right. Ms. Shazia, what about the recognition to the TTA by the regional countries? Of course, some preconditions have to be set regarding that.
Taliban has to work like they have to fix their own house. They have to put effort to be recognized inside Afghanistan first. So then there will be no debate like Taliban's are just representative of small fraction of people. So first they have to make them legitimize inside the Afghanistan, at least, and say it out loud, yes, we have a full control and we are fully responsible, whoever is doing whatever, wherever. So at least give this much assurity to the neighboring countries, and you have seen that Taliban's, they are not giving that. They are saying that TTP and TTA are not in their control.
Right.
And
Ms.
Jawad,
Shazia,
if I'm allowed to just pass one.
expert international relations, Mr. Yasir Janjua, I would have loved to take more views from you, but unfortunately we are short of time. Mr. Yasir Janjua, senior analyst, thank you very much for your time, also being with us on Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's show. Until the next one, take good care of yourselves.